My name's Berkowitz. I'm an installation artist and I predominantly work with ephemeral and found materials. I've been interested in creating installations and site-specific works over the last 20 or so years. I've been creating immersive environments that people interact with and experience physically. And I've been interested in the passage of time and our place within that. The work's sustenance is very much about the changes and evolution within the Australian landscape, and I've incorporated a lot of Indigenous edible and medicinal plants within the work, and I've also used a lot of introduced species which document the various waves of migration from Europe, Middle East, the Americas, Asia, and the kind of plants which have been brought to our shores by different migrants and have really changed and shaped our landscape. And I've also incorporated succulents, and not all of them are edible, some of them are medicinal, because as I look around, basically everywhere you see succulents, because they're the only things that are self-sustaining and can kind of cope with climate change. So in a sense, this work does kind of look at the food plants, the changing food plants in the Australian landscape. I thought, how in my work can I do something that is productive and can somehow help the environment in a positive way without being a grand gesture, just something quite small and humble. So, I like this idea of creating an indoor garden where I would get school children involved. When I did the original work, I did it at La Trobe Museum of Art last year, and my daughter's class was involved with doing plantings of seeds, and a lot of the seeds that they planted were from a previous artwork called cornucopia, which was made up of I had alfalfa sprouts, and I had mustard seeds, lentils, chickpeas, all these seeds I had in my studio, and I thought, what am I going to do with them? And I thought, I have to recycle them into another work. So the kids did all these plantings at school and grew them over a month, and then I incorporated them into my artwork. What we have here is warrigal greens, also known as New Zealand spinach. This was eaten by the Aboriginal people prior to colonisation, but it was also eaten by the convicts as a source of iron. I've got here a vanilla lily. Unfortunately, it's not in flower, but this has multiple tubers which were eaten raw or cooked by the Aboriginal people prior to settlement. This is a small Sydney bush orchid, and this is the large Sydney bush orchid. This one has an edible tuber which was roasted and eaten. Also the flower was eaten with other ingredients, and when this flowers, apparently it will have quite an intoxicating smell. So I'm quite looking forward to that. The stems of the small Sydney bush orchid were beaten and chewed. And up here I have this is called pig face. And this has a flower that was sucked for its nectar, and also these could be eaten. They're quite fleshy leaves, which are quite salty. It's also used as an Aboriginal medicine, and the Sydney bush orchid tuber was also had medicinal qualities. It could be used for burns and on blisters, and this is a good example of the tuber here. I've got kale, artichoke, fennel, parsley. In terms of succulents, I have here aloe vera, which is used for healing wounds. So this theme of healing and repair is quite a dominant theme within this work, and I'm interested in the long-term kind of sustainability of the food and plants that we eat. I like that idea of a sculpture that was fully recyclable and sustainable on every level, and that idea of giving something back to the community, and that idea of trying in a very small way to make a difference to global warming, which is such an overwhelming kind of problem. And you know, it made me think, how does an individual kind of respond to such a vast problem? And if you can do something in a very small way, maybe that's a good thing. And the idea of being self-sufficient and creating a veggie patch is a very positive gesture. The early 90s was a very important turning point in terms of my work practice and how I wanted to use materials and work with materials. We go from the plants, which are producing oxygen, to this huge walled structure, which for me is very much like a set of lungs that breathe in and breathe out as you walk through the space. These are almost, each bag is almost like a tiny air-filled sac that makes up the millions of little polyps that line the lungs. This work for me has a kind of surreal and dreamlike quality. It also has very strong associations with the interior of the human body. For some people it has a kind of womb-like quality to it, and for others it can be quite a claustrophobic space. Also, you know, the use of white bags in Eastern religion, white has connotations of death. So, I mean, if you're looking at this work from an ecological point of view, I mean, all this waste and the mutation of waste that keeps on accumulating, you know, is choking our planet in a sense. So I kind of see this work as having multiple layered meanings, and people can, you know, view it in many different ways and on different levels. And I kind of like that open-endedness to this work. This work has actually had many different incarnations. This is the largest it's actually been installed. The original piece is 4 by 2 metres. So I think on this scale it certainly has a far more kind of immersive quality, and you know, it is far more evocative and very strange kind of psychological space as well. I don't go out protesting, but I mean, in my quiet way, I hope that my work does convey some positive messages about, you know, things that people can do to try and reduce their waste. For example, with the plastic bags, I mean, after walking through that work and being overwhelmed with the excess of waste, hopefully people will think next time they go to the supermarket, I don't need another bag, I can bring my own bags.